Even the wisest of humans or machines can make an error, which is why we've tapped into the genius of Quantum 5, Tim Trout, Brad Pascal, John Fairchild, and Jim Roche, all coming up on Transformers.
I wanted to share with you a little bit today about Quantum's beliefs around knowing how to work with different types of customers. I grew up selling cars in Chicago, and selling cars in Chicago taught me that when the Cubs customer came in, and I had to know how to work with that customer. They wanted their beer, they were happy-go-lucky, they believed that everything would always be okay. And I also had to learn how to work with the hockey customer, because the Blackhawks fan was going to come in. They were a little more rough and tumble. They liked their beer and didn't mind if it got spilled while somebody was charging the walls. And then I definitely had to learn how to sell to the downtown Chicago customer. They came in straight from the Board of Trade or a bank, and they wanted to know how we made the beers. And last but not least, in Chicago, you are definitely going to meet some of the customers that came straight from Lake Michigan. They were on their boat. They wanted to have a beer, and they definitely wanted people to know it was a great one. If you want to know how do I work with all different kinds of customers at your dealership, whether it's an email, a phone call, a text message, or in person, Quantum has answers you want.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable, everyone. I'm Gene Girdley along with Ted Ings. This is Transformers. And Ted, our next panelists are no stranger to the Fixed Ops Roundtable, and they are positioned to transform automotive training.
Transform indeed, my friend. And it's a great honor to welcome back David O'Brien of Quantum 5. Dave, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Oh man, this is exciting, Ted. I think this is our fourth one now, and so glad to be here. Awesome.
And also want to welcome your two superstars, Dave Foy. Dave, welcome again back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, Ted. Great to be here.
Yep. I tell you, I'm starting to like this virtual thing now, Dave. You really got me hooked on it. So
yeah, you were a big fan from the start, Ted.
I know. Don't give it all away. And then, of course, I want to welcome our latest superstar who's on the cover of Fixed Ops magazine, Sarah Van Tyne. Sarah, welcome back to the event.
Thank you so much, Ted. It's great to be here.
So, Dave, you got a lot of things on the go at Quantum 5. I see and hear you guys everywhere. So, congratulations on the success that you're having.
No, we owe a lot of it to you, and we owe it to the good people of automotive. For sure, Ted, I got to tell you, having these two on our team has been meaningful, and it has been meaningful because what they care about is how do we help automotive. So I'm happy to be a moderator and a little bit of a participant today. We have this down where they've worked on the cue they're going to give me if I dare talk too much. So we had a fun debate about what the signal was going to be. So you'll have to watch today and see if you can catch what their signal is for me to stop. But with your permission, Ted, we'll jump right in.
Let's take it away. Go ahead.
Awesome. So this today is a conversation with our folks and all of you about the millennials. And when we first started this conversation, Sarah was the first one to remind us. She said, I think in automotive, we ought to be tired of talking about millennials. She said, I'm sick of hearing everybody say that they aren't valuable. And so the mode that we took to prepare for this is we didn't think it was time to stop talking about the millennials because we think it's time to bring out the best in this generation in our business. And as we started that, we just dove right in. And my first question then for Sarah and Dave is, when you think about the number one reason that it's difficult for us to find the right service teams, service advisors, even technicians to bring in the dealership, Sarah, you want to start us out? Tell us a little bit about the number one reason you think it's so difficult.
Well, listen, I mean, when we were chatting a little bit, preparing for this conversation, I'm a millennial. All right. And, one of the things that I get tired of hearing about sometimes are, what do millennials want? And yes, I'm a little bit of an atypical, but I am a millennial. And it's just, as the conversation progresses in our industry, one of the big things that I see being a deficit for dealerships and why people stray away from considering it is sometimes it's an awareness thing, right? A lot of people, myself included, when I first got into this industry, I wasn't really aware of all the wonderful things that automotive had to offer. I was somebody that had a bachelor's degree in studio art and art history, and I had dreams of being in museum curation. What happens a lot of times is dealerships don't put the effort into having the discussions with colleges, with universities, with high schools, and putting themselves out there and saying, hey guys, gals, this is the best industry to be in, because all of these wonderful things that you're pursuing in terms of your career or in terms of your education, there's so many alignments that you can have within the automotive industry. And especially in the service drive, you have hospitality, communications, finance. There's all these things that you can tie into being a service advisor where you can make a tremendous living for yourself. But those are the conversations we're not having with today's generation or with the millennial generation.
Oh, that's awesome. Dave Foy, number one thing to follow that.
That is a tough act to follow right there. But I will say the number one thing that's hurting us is we are using too narrow a focus to look for our next advisors. There is, as Sarah just mentioned, the hospitality industry is no different than being a service advisor. And so why are we not looking there for some of our next advisors to come into the business? The millennial generation that we continue to discuss, it's not that they don't want to work, but they work differently than us, right? And we need to be prepared for that. And we need to train them for long-term retention within our business. Not everybody is going to look and want to see themselves still as that service advisor 20 years down the road. And it might be 6 months down the road that they're looking to have something different to do. And so we need to continue to provide what they need in terms of being retained as an employee. And that focus that we have not put on it, that we have kept that narrow focus that somebody has the good job and they just want to keep that good job and never change from that, is something that has hindered our ability to attract more people into this industry.
No, I agree with you guys both completely. I'm only going to add one short thing on, and I'm going to add the word culture. I think that, in all ends of the dealership, we haven't been as intentional about creating a culture that embraced all the employees, whether it was a millennial or somebody as old as me. And I think we have to make really solid, intentional culture decisions so that all generations want to come to our business and all generations get to our dealership and they go, this isn't what I thought it was. This is way better. I'm glad I'm here. So that'd be the piece I'd add. Question number 2, when you think about growing the next generation of service advisors, what advice about training, development, tools do you believe stores need to look at in order to be able to grow advisors themselves in the years to come?
I'll jump in on that first, Dave. So as I see it over the last bunch of years, technology has increased, but skills have decreased. There was a false sense put into the industry that tech was going to fix all kinds of process problems. And that just isn't the case. Obviously, technology is there to enhance not just the dealership experience, but your life in general. But it is not going to solve problems that are still there. And so we need to find ways to continue to work with our teams so that they can use that technology effectively and also increase their skills so that they know how to deal with people. The multi-point inspection is not going to present itself to a customer, right? You can send the multi-point, but there still needs to be that interaction between a service advisor and a client, and they need to know how to facilitate that interaction.
Sarah?
I absolutely agree with Dave's points. And to add to that, we really have to make sure that we remember the I in omnichannel. And I think that's the biggest challenge that we don't, as an industry, tend to train advisors about. You know, we really focus on, all right, let's use our car jargon terms. What do you know about vehicles? And that can be kind of off-putting, especially to people that didn't come from the automotive field as a background when they get into this industry. You know, a lot of the people, when they come in, if they are, let's say, a millennial or younger, Gen Z, Gen X, or older, it doesn't really matter what industry they came from. When they come into a service drive, if they have no automotive experience, it can be very off-putting when we start using all this car terminology and jargon, and we are starting to train our advisors in that same kind of manner. So as an industry, if we can remember, listen, I mean, there's so many different types of customers, and not all of our customers are well-versed in automotive terminology, nor are they versed in some of the processes and things that we have at the dealership. So if we can communicate to our people, remembering how many different types of personalities exist in the world and how many different ways people communicate, and then effectively teach our advisors to communicate in that manner, it's just going to be more beneficial for the dealership overall.
Oh, that's so right on. And I'm only going to add on to this the word role play. I just know that as we work with service advisors and we ask them to learn how to do things, that the transition I think managers have to make is to move from, and let's be honest, right? Dave Foy, Sarah, you guys were around those service departments longer than I was. Not every service manager is comfortable themselves with the idea of I'm going to go role play with my advisors. And I think the word role play comes in. It doesn't require an outside company. It doesn't require anybody. It just requires a commitment to get out there and do some practicing with new team members so that they get a chance to hear how you deal with all the difficult things and come along. Yeah. All right, let me jump ahead to the next question. So we got these new advisors, and we created this environment that you guys described, and we started to train them. So the next question kind of becomes, what are some of the best practice retention strategies that you've seen, and how can dealers implement them immediately? And what ones did you see that didn't work that the folks watching us today ought to, maybe they'll be avoiding? Sarah, you want to start us out?
Absolutely. So, I mean, retention, let's talk about some numbers real quick. Let's talk about some data. So from 2020 to 2021, the U.S. Bureau of Labor, they put some interesting numbers out there. Since 2020 to 2021, 863,000 women dropped out of the workforce compared to 168,000 men. Well, that number, we're still seeing that deficit creep up when it comes to things in 2021. So let's talk about the flexibility there. Why was there such a tremendous difference in those numbers? Well, dealerships oftentimes don't put in the flexibility that's needed for people that have families or have other outside obligations. I mean, what happens to somebody when, okay, remote virtual school's over, we're going to all go back in person? Well, how does somebody that's a service advisor, if that school shuts down for 2 weeks because of, an infection, now who's taking care of that child? Now who's looking after their family members if their family member gets sick? There's so many different things that dealerships, one of the pitfalls I see is they stick a schedule out there and they say, this is my way or the highway, take it or leave it. And we lose those people that would have been valuable teammates to that retention. And so coming up with positive work schedules, coming up with some flexible options, staffing accordingly to that, It also prevents burnout, which we're seeing a lot of, currently in our industry too, as customer-facing roles increase the amount of time and stress that they're physically on site.
Good stuff. Good stuff, Sarah. Dave, we're a little short on time, but give us some.
You got it. So I'm going to go back to career paths and also training your teams. So training, and I'll steal this phrase, is training is something we do, not something we did. Too often in the automotive industry, we do our training and then we say, yes, I trained my people. But that needs to be continual. It needs to be ongoing. The training is obviously helping them do their job, but it's also making them understand that you care about them as a human being and that you want them to succeed. And we need more of that in the automotive industry. Our teams need to realize that this is a great business and that we do care about them. And by us showing that, they will care more about our customers.
Got it. One last lightning round before we get off here, guys. What's the most important piece of advice that you want to leave this audience with today? Real quick, how do we create multi-generational workforces that are effective? Go, Dave.
Yeah, realize the differences and use them as strengths and not weaknesses. Magnets have two opposite poles that work together.
Sarah.
Networking and training. Think outside the box. Look for people in other industries. Go out and make relationships with your colleges, your high schools, find the next generation of talent, and then continuously train. Keep that top of mind in your workforce.
And mine would be just get creative. Find flexibility where you think it might not be. Go stretch to places you haven't before. Find ways for the good men and women to have the flexibility to make them go, I'm never leaving automotive. This works for me. Ted, we made it.
Hey, Dave, training has come roaring back since the pandemic, hasn't it? And the huge pent-up need. And
yes, sir.
You guys are right there to solve that.
We're sure trying hard, Ted. We're grateful to hang out with you. I know you've been back on the road doing it too, and it's just fun to be out there with everybody again.
It is, and it's a good feeling. How does our audience, Dave O'Brien, reach out to you to learn more about Quantum 5 and to get a hold of you and see if there's a good fit with their organization?
Yeah, Ted, the easiest way is obviously you can always reach out to Ted, to Dave and Sarah, or our website is right along the bottom. Go to our website. There's a team of folks ready to share what we're doing, and we're excited, having fun all over the country these days.
Love it. I want to thank Sarah Van Tine. I want to thank Dave Foy, and of course, Dave O'Brien from Quantum 5 here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Hey, thanks everyone. And we expect great things ahead from Quantum 5. And Ted, innovators and transformers just keep rolling into the Fixed Ops Roundtable, including Tim Trout at Nitrofill, coming up next.
Well, that's right, Gene. And we want to welcome now to the Fixed Ops Roundtable, Tim Trout, who is with Nitrofill. Tim, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable Transformers.
Thank you, Ted. Appreciate you guys having me.
Hey, Tim, I've heard a lot of great things about your company, but first, a little bit about you. You've got a background in dealership and retail. Would you mind just tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I actually started in the automotive world, to date myself, back in 1986. More the aftermarket world. I was in the parts, district manager in the parts world a little bit. And then I realized that I enjoyed the service side better. So I made the flip, still in the independent world. I managed some tire stores. I owned my own tire store for several years. And then I wanted to quit working on the old stuff. So that's when I made the change, probably in the mid to late 90s, to the dealership world. So I've been, service director, service writer. I've done some, I was a corporate trainer for a company for a while on the dealer level, where I trained advisors and did different things, and been vendor like I am now, several years, and dealt directly with fixed ops and helped them implement different programs of, that helps them.
Well, you certainly understand what goes on then in the dealership world. So I got to begin by asking you a question. So tell our audience, for those who don't know, what is What is Nitrofill?
So Nitrofill is, I don't want everybody to get hung up on just nitrogen. That's part of what we do, but that's not the main thing that we do from, a fixed background. It's a big program. It's a whole encompassing program and nitrogen is just kind of the vessel that kind of gets us to our end game. And, it's a great product. And I don't say that because I work for them. I say that because I've used it in the dealership world myself. And it's a whole program that's great for retention and great benefits for the end user.
I actually picked up a new vehicle of my own yesterday in dealership, and that dealership had several preload products. How does Nitrofill differ from some of those other preloads, Tim?
Well, Ted, here's the thing. There's being out in the field like we are every day. You're right. There's lots of different preload products. A couple of things about Nitrofill that I feel I'm very adamant about is, number one, we have a product that every department can be profitable at, not just sales or not just finance or not just service. Every department can make money with our product. And on the preload standpoint, I'm a big believer that whatever's going on in an addendum, there's certain criteria a dealer needs to look at. Like number one, it's got to be profitable. And most of the products people are using are very profitable. Number two, you need something that's desirable. It's something that people want. And believe it or not, as you see the way our program works, it is something that's desirable. And thirdly, which I feel like we're one of the only ones that fit this criteria, something that'll bring them back after the car leaves your store, because the hardest job, in my opinion, for a fixed operations director is getting the traffic on the drive during the slow times. Mm-hmm. And if you can have a product that runs itself, that you don't have to spend time with, and it brings them back on its own, then it's a home run, in my opinion.
A big focus at the Fixed Ops Roundtable over the last couple of years, Tim, has been tires. In fact, just last year, we did a tire summit. And we know that a lot of things happen along with the tires, yet a lot of dealers are not focused necessarily on it because it's not a big profit item. How does a Nitrofill benefit the Fixed Ops department in selling more tires?
Well, the saying out there is if you lose your tire, you lose your customer. And yes, I agree. Tires are loss leaders, kind of like oil changes. They're not a very profitable item, but you have so much to lose whenever you lose that tire and you lose that customer. So we bring tire awareness to the dealership. With a reminder service that we have, we actually invite them back for tire-related items. And we actually, dealers only sell 8% of new tires a year, Ted. So, we have seen that everybody's penetration on tires definitely goes up when they have the right programs in place, and Nitrofill definitely fits that bill.
You mentioned retention a little bit earlier. Again, how does Nitrofill benefit, the Fixed Ops, from the standpoint of retention?
So we have a reminder service. Every owner's manual, Ted, whether it's Mercedes, BMW, Chevy, every owner's manual does tell you to get your tires checked monthly. So what we do is we have a reminder service say, hey, it's time to come to XYZ Chevrolet, get your tires checked, and X. It can be safety inspections, top off fluids, whatever the dealer decides. And right now the NADA says that each dealer sees their customers 1.2 times a year. With our program, it's been proven year in, year out, our dealers see their customers 4.5 times a year. So we can get them there. And then once we get them there, then it's up to the dealer to figure out how to capitalize on it.
Okay. Now, Nitrofill has been around for a while, so I got to ask you this question, Tim. Is it safe?
Oh, absolutely. Nitrogen itself, it's been, they've been putting in airplanes since the 60s. Nitrogen is essentially nothing. You're taking all the moisture of compressed air out and different things. Anytime you maintain proper tire pressure, you're going to be safe. Your car's going to handle better. It's obviously safer. It's not as responsive to temperature. That's why your NASCAR, your Formula One, all your racing circuits use nitrogen. And the good thing is, Ted, the general public is getting educated about it more often. People are asking for it now more so than ever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned when we opened this morning that there's so much more to Nitrofill than just inflating the customer's tires with nitrogen. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, for your customers, we have a lot of benefits. There's all the benefits of nitrogen. We have a complete auto club that goes along with this. It's kind of like AAA on steroids. Most people do have AAA anymore for towing and recovery, and it's a little different than the roadside that they get from the manufacturer. Like I say, it's more like a AAA, and we have a tire benefit with it as well. We have all kinds of programs. We can customize them for a dealer, whatever they want, but we put a tire warranty on their tires. So it's a way to guarantee that every new and used car to leave your dealership has some type of warranty for their tire, since the tire is the number one defect from a dealership.
Tim, you mentioned AAA, and yeah, how would Nitrofill work? I'm a AAA customer, and give us a little background on that.
So, I mean, essentially our program, we offer every benefit that AAA does offer. And I would say the majority of the time, this will always be a cheaper option, but we offer every benefit that AAA does and then some, because we do have the app where they can, like the Uber app, where they can see them. We give them a tire warranty, which AAA does not offer. So everything, the trip routing, the lockout service, every benefit that AAA has, we offer as well through Nitrofill.
Lizette Gohl from Google, who speaks often at our events, and she's the head of automotive retail there, introduced us recently to something called tire season. And I didn't realize there was such a thing, but typically now here in late September, we're coming into that tire season, coming right into the fall and right into the winter. And of course, that's followed by other things that lead from the tires as well. What additional benefits beyond the nitrogen does the customer get? Come back to that again.
Well, like I say, Ted, they do get a reminder service, because especially down here in Florida, when our winter residents come down and all, people are concerned about tires and their safety. So we have that reminder service to come back and get their tires checked as often as they need to at the dealership. They do get the Auto Club. We have a great app with our Auto Club. It's kind of like Uber, to where if somebody, they lock their keys in their car, any type of problems happen, they can literally see a tow truck on a map coming to get them. We're a very green company. We're part of the National Forest Foundation, which is a very big organization, where every customer that goes on our program, we plant trees for them. They can dedicate that at the time. They do get a tire warranty. So, whenever they do eventually get that nail or screw in their tire, they get some help with that tire.
Yeah, and that happens so often, and is overlooked a lot of times by service advisors, because they don't look at the car or the truck with the customer, to do a quick inspection before the vehicle goes into the shop. Speaking of that, does the tire have to be new? And is this only a new car or a new truck product only?
No, not at all. It's something that can be sold on an existing car in a service drive. If they got 430 seconds or more of tire tread, they can buy Nitrofill for their car. It's a great preload product for a used car as well, because, Ted, it creates a why to buy. Why buy your Nissan from my Chevy dealer opposed to a Nissan from the Toyota store? Well, because you will get, a roadside program or an Auto Club with your used car. You will get a tire warranty. And it's honestly, the last store that I ran, I really got a lot of other makes in my service drive because of the reminder service, because we were doing it on all the used cars as well. So it's a phenomenal product for both new and used cars.
All right. So if I'm a customer, how would I, as a customer, receive the benefits of Nitrofill? Is there a registration process? How does that all work?
Yeah, and I'm glad this question came up, because in years past, anybody that's used Nitrofill, that's kind of been a thorn in our side, trying to get people registered, because people are paying for this service, and if they don't get registered, they don't get it. So they're paying for something they're not using. Well, now at Nitrofill, we have systems in place now where we can guarantee 100% registration for your customers. To where we actually take that into our in-house and we handle all the registrations for you. We use Dealer Vault, which is a data security company. We're certified through those guys, and a lot of dealers are going through we're using Dealer Vault to get them registered every night, so that way they immediately have their benefits.
Okay, so let's talk to the fixed ops directors who are watching, and the general managers and the service managers. How do you handle the claims on tires? How is that done? What's the process? So there's two ways that it can be done. It can either be done through phone call, but we actually have a way they can do it online now, where they literally just go to nitrofill.com and they click on claims, and there's a tab whether it's being repaired or replaced. They just click the tab and it walks them right through it. Generally, the turnaround time, because when we install a store, Ted, we do obviously go in and train them on how to do that. Turnaround times generally minutes. We tell the advisors once they submit a claim, get an authorization number, then they can fix the car and get the customer out. And then once they send us the final repair order, then within minutes, generally, it's paid for. And we do pay them direct. Okay. So, that's another question that just came up now that came into my head. Tell us about training. What do you do, to train the dealership employees, the people who interact with the customers? What can a dealership expect from Nitrofill? Well, I've done other products. I know BG is one of the sponsors of our organization here, and I used to be a BG guy years ago. And it's the training with this is unique because we literally have to train every department. Parts has to be involved, service has to be involved, the salesmen have to know.
The finance guys have to know. So really, we got to touch hands with everybody at the dealership. So generally, the way we tell people is we're going to spend whatever time we need to, to get the people trained. And when you, as a fixed op director, and myself, we're all comfortable with everybody's trained up, then then we know we're done training. So it's hard to put a time limit on it. It depends on the size of the store, but training is everything, as we all know in this industry. And it's uneducated people or ignorant people. So we try to make them as educated as we can.
Is it done online? Do you go to the store? Does it matter if the store is small or big?
Generally, I would say 90% of the time we do it in person. We do have online videos available, if somebody wants to go on and figure out a claim or something like that, but it's a lot more effective because the questions that you may have watching online, you can't get answered. So I would say 90% or more is one-on-one, in person.
Okay. All right. And does Nitrofill benefit other departments in the dealership, and how does that work?
So yeah, absolutely. Like I said in the beginning, every department can benefit from Nitrofill. Parts is going to make a little profit on it, mark it up. Service is going to get some labor preloaded, plus all the tires on the back end. We do put more value in an addendum sticker, so it makes an addendum sticker more, all the add-ons worth more. Finance can upsell time. Everything that's preloaded on the cars is a 1-year benefit typically. And the finance office has the opportunity to upsell the time in the finance office. They get a chance to make money there. So we can make it as big or as little as you want it to be.
And addendums are something that we've seen return to a lot of dealerships in this past year with a lot of shortages on new vehicles. So that's a great idea. To be able to have it as an add-on product that way, and to be able to present it that way to the consumer.
Correct. And that we see such a variance in addendums and the products, the price ranges and stuff, and it's. If somebody's got a $1,000 to $1,500 addendum, we can show in writing where just our program alone can put a $1,200 value on an addendum sticker. So, we do teach them, hey, look, we can teach your sales staff this much value in our product, but now you have all these other great products to go along with it, so it just increases the value. Okay. Sales is no more than a transfer of enthusiasm. And what we try to do is we get people as excited about this program as we are, they're going to buy it every time.
Yeah, I could tell. All right, so if I'm a dealer watching, or I'm a general manager, or a fixed ops or a service manager, or a parts manager watching, how do I reach out to you? How do I get more information on the product, and how can I get my questions answered?
Well, the easiest way to do it is you can go to nitrofill.com, and then you can click for info, or you can dial 877-2-GO-FEEL. That's 877, the number 2, and go feel, and that'll put you in touch with our office, and they can reach out to the local person for you.
All right. Tim Trout here today, everybody, and we appreciate so much Nitrofill being involved with the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Tim, thank you again, and we appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having us.
Tim, that was fantastic information. I learned a lot, and really great value there as well.
Thank you.
I always learn something new and transformative from Fixed Ops Digital and our next guest, Brad Pascal.
Well, Gene, you're right about Fixed Ops Digital being transformative, and we have here today with us none other than Brad Pascal, who's the Regional Sales Director at Fixed Ops Digital. Brad, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Hey, Ted, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be back.
Hey, Brad, I know some of the things we're we're going to talk about today is, what a huge market this is for automotive service, yet what a small sliver that the dealers ultimately get in our industry, and some of the things that we can do to combat that. And, thank you for what you do for our industry, and thank you to Fixed Ops Digital as well.
Oh, it's our pleasure. I think, Ted, something that's really important on the fixed up side that you see that went through the sell side is transparency. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today.
All right. Well, Brad, I'll let you take it away. The show is yours.
Awesome, guys. Well, I want to share a couple things, staying with the Transformer theme. 3 key ways we can fight back against the Decepticons, which would be our automotive repair facilities, right? So when we're looking at the industry as a whole, last year it was $641 billion business, and dealerships captured 12% of that. So that means 88% of that business went to the Decepticons or the automotive repair facilities. And what they tend to do is they tend to spread rumors about dealerships, saying that they're cheaper and that they are more convenient and that they're faster. But where they really get us is proximity. So when someone is searching, there's so many auto repair facilities that they pop up ahead of us. So I'm going to show you some key ways to fight back. So really there's 3 ways to fight back against these automotive repair facilities. Online service experience, which we kind of start there instead of Google My Business because we want to extend that to your current customers, right? And then we'll go a little bit into Google My Business, and then we'll go into maybe the most important part of all, which we haven't had in a long time, is actionable reporting. So let's start at online service experience. If we go on Amazon and we search for Transformers, we get what we see is a search results page, very similar to the sell side. It's going to show us Transformers. It's going to show us sponsored ads. It's going to show us things that might be suggested for us. And if we click on an individual one, we're going to see a product detail page, very similar to the vehicle detail page. This is by design. It's kind of a ClickFunnels style information download. So it's like, okay, let me visually stimulate you with picking whichever one you like. And then let me give you as much information about that individual product as possible so that you can make an educated decision to add it to your cart, to buy it now. If you want to add it to a wedding registry or save it for later, you can do that. So you have multiple options. So you don't back the customer into a corner right off the bat. So this is the experience on most dealerships. We drop them on the service specials page or the service scheduler page, and we just say, here's this coupon. Now, 70% of the traffic that comes into the special page is from mobile, and we have print coupon, contact us, schedule service, and then we don't have a lot of information about that. So what's super important is transparency. Just like transparency moved to the sell side, and now we have search results pages, VDP pages. We need to start thinking about that on the service side of things. So what I see that works well is having a or a service menu page like this that tells some important information. It tells the price, it tells when it's recommended, and it allows you to convert or allows your consumer to convert in any way that they want. If they want to schedule, they can schedule from here. If they want to save it to their Apple phone, to their Apple passes or their Android passes, they can do that. If they want to click learn more and get a detailed description of that, then that's the way that they can go. So that's super important because it allows us to provide more information. Right now, currently, most service schedulers are set up with they're relying on a consumer to tie their problem to an opcode. Well, most consumers are not technicians. And so a lot of times they're going to have trouble doing that. And because they have trouble doing that, is you see that your service scheduler's out 2 weeks, but your shop is only out 1 week because the consumers are misallocating time in the service scheduler. So what we start to see is the more transparency that you can provide, the easier flow that you can provide in a way that they're used to interacting. They know how to navigate this system. They navigate it whether they go on the Nike or they go on to Amazon. Consumers know how to do this, and this is the way that they best receive information. So I think that this is super important on this side of things, because this is where we get it wrong a lot of times on the service side. And if you think about service as a whole, 9 times out of 10, a top service advisor outgrosses a top salesperson. So why don't we set those guys up for success like we do the sales guys? So if we move into GMB, there's really important things to figure out here. Now I got to give a shout out to my friend George Nenny, because he literally wrote the book on Google My Business, and he's a good friend of mine. So he said a lot of things, but I'm going to touch on a couple of things that are a little bit different. So you definitely have to fill out all of the information. You have to have at least 10 categories on your service listing. I can't tell you how many audits I do and free audits that I do for people on their Google My Business listing, where they have one category or they have overlapping categories with the main listing and their service listing. And then this is probably the most important part, is a link to your specials page instead of your service scheduler. There's 3 links that are within here, and I'm going to show you a little bit more on this. So when you're looking at this, these are some of the categories. Now there's 23 categories that you can choose from, but this is set up properly based on how many ROs you do, what are your top services, how you're ranking in the city. So this is the way you set up properly. But here's the important part. Here's your main link. So we link it to our coupons page. And then the second one is appointments link. That's where you link your service scheduler. Too many times I see the service scheduler linked here, and that's asking for a commitment from the customer before they have enough information to go down that service scheduler. So those 2 things are super important, is linking to your service specials first, and then to your appointments. And then if you go on down,
Brad, if you don't mind, if I can say, that Google My Business page is so valuable for dealerships. And what you're showing us right now on that last slide, how to set that up, that is one of the first things that consumers will see when they go to Google. So again, great job. I wanted to say I've had questions about that myself for a long time. So thank you.
So what I did a study recently, and 58% of all organic service traffic comes from Google My Business.
I believe
so. A lot of people that are finding you naturally. And then what you would do, Ted, is you would actually go in here and fill out all of the services, right? Because a lot of consumers don't know everything that we offer. And when you start to fill out these services, when you start to come in here and you actually go in and fill out the products and put the pricing, this actually shows up when people pull up your dealership or searching for things. So when I say completely fill out the profile, I mean every single portion of the profile. Even better if you can get a consumer to write a review and post a picture of their car, or post a picture of them having a car wash or something like that. So it's even better to have that. But what we'd like to do is start to build this stuff out. And the reason why is it just provides a better experience, and the more transparency, the better on the Google My Business listing. Now the part that really pairs with this is super important, is the reporting part. So 9 out of 10 dealerships have never seen how much service traffic they have coming into their website. They've never segmented it out to where they see sales traffic, they see overall traffic. So if your agency or whoever you're working with isn't segmenting out your service traffic, you're not able to make educated decisions on how your marketing is working. If we look here at this is segmented out that shows us page views to the service side, to parts and accessories, to tire. But most OEMs have like email programs or data mining programs that you can run. And so if you're able to segment this out, you can tell how effectively those programs are working for you. And you can tell which pages those people are going to. On the far right-hand side where it's in green, you can actually tell the time of day that they're shopping, your consumers are shopping. So if you know the time of day that they're normally on, wouldn't it make sense to send an email 20, 30 minutes before then, right? To make your normal stuff work better that you're already paying for from the OEMs, your social media, your direct mail or whatever you're doing, then you know which days are most promising when it comes to people searching on your website. So I think this is super important because we have to have analytics and data to make educated decisions. And so what we do also is we actually make a total engagement report of each one of those specials. So we're able to see how many people schedule service, how many people click learn more to go down the funnel, how many people watch videos that we uploaded in there, how many people save to the dealer wallet. So this is really important because you can tell if one of those buttons are working or not, right? Or if something needs to be changed, or if a link is broke. This is an indicator to make sure that your customers are being served the right way. So that's super important when it comes to any sort of click funnel that you set up. You have to know where those consumers are going and make sure this is all to make sure that they're served the best possible. So, Ted, do you have any questions?
I got to tell you, Brad, this is easily one of the most valuable segments that I've seen at the Fixed Ops Roundtable, simply because that going back to the Google My Business, and then how you drill down on that, making sure that all these fields are populated and have the information, and Brad, they got to be updated, right? They got to be relevant. They got to be now. And if your competition is not doing this, and in many cases they are not even thinking about doing this, right? You've got a tremendous advantage in the marketplace.
Yeah, and I think something else that we don't think about a lot of times. There's a guy named Darren Shaw that works for a SEO company up in Canada called Whitespark, and he's famous for saying a quote that if you make a post on Google My Business, it's like a free ad. So what we encourage people to do is any content that they put on their social media, any content that they put on their website, repurpose that on Google My Business. You can schedule those posts out to make sure that you're in front of those. You can schedule out those services. If you're having a pet adoption in the service drive, if you're having any of that kind of stuff, that stuff is free business. And it tends to generate a lot of people looking at that. And it tends to humanize the dealership where you're being in front of people when it comes to people searching for different things. So I think that's super important. If anybody wants a free audit, Ted, I know you guys are going to roll my information about across the bottom. I would be more than happy to help out and do that. No strings attached.
I love it. From my own perspective, being a business owner, I learned the importance of going through all the hurdles, first of all, to get properly into Google My Business. All right. And then once I achieved that, I learned about what you're talking about right now. Those little posts are set up. They look just like ads, and you can put different messages in there at different times of the week or month or day. And you're right. You can pre-schedule that in advance. And I would encourage our audience, if you're not doing it today, to reach out to Brad at Fixed Ops Digital. And you'll see his email is right here on the screen. And we all know Owen Moon, and we love Owen Moon, all right, as well, from Fixed Ops Digital. Brad, just great information, and thank you for sharing it. Very relevant. And remember, like he said, we're only getting 12% of the business. The mass merchandisers are out there taking advantage of this right now. We need to be doing the same thing.
Well, thanks for having me, Ted, and I really appreciate you guys and what you do for the industry.
Brad, thank you so much. We're very humbled. Brad from Fixed Ops Digital here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thanks, Brad. And hey, thanks for customizing your presentation to the theme of the show, Transformers. And also special thanks to Fixed Ops Digital for your continued support of the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Well, Ted, it's time for a celebration. Get out your party hats and your candles. The birthday boy is coming up next. Well, John Fairchild, wow, big announcement, huh? Happy birthday coming up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I will have one tomorrow. So not the end of the world.
And so, as my wife would say, it's number 29, right?
Correct. I guess it's my 31st, 29th birthday. So
31st, 29th birthday.
yeah,
Hey, I
something like
get
that.
the honor, John. I'm really excited. I get the honor of interviewing you for this particular segment. And it's really fun because you and I are both trainers, and you've been doing this for a while now. You're the president of Fairchild Automotive Solutions, and you don't just have a birthday. There's another special day related to your business.
I appreciate that. Labor Day marked 12 years in business for Fairchild Automotive Solutions and doing what I love, helping dealers to maximize their current traffic and expand their CSI and profitability.
That's great. And there are a lot of friends of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, a lot of dealer partners who you actually go in and train and coach at their dealerships. So it's a great relationship.
Yeah, and I appreciate you having me on today and able to talk about a couple of things, and just to kind of intro myself a little bit for people who may not be experienced with me, and kind of give you a little bit of a background. Gene, I've been in the car business since I was a teenager, and worked in retail for many years, and now I really spend a majority of my time live in a service drive, live in the drive, helping the people maximize their standing in life and to become better at what they do, whether that be service advisor, service manager, fixed operations director. Right. And typically, like I said, it's live in a drive, working one-on-one with live customers, which I'm sure and everybody watching and listening does, is that the daily distractions, the whirlwind of which is our business. Yep. A lot of times that training is best facilitated when it is live in the drive, and you can kind of work around some of the daily distractions that are going on. Sure. But it's got its limitations too, and right. I know you've got a lot of experience with remote training, and particularly with the landscape of training in the last since COVID hit really has changed a lot, hasn't it?
It has, and I want to dive into that a little bit with you, John. But before that, you talked about the fact that you got started when you were a teenager. Was that on the technical side?
Yeah, actually, it was very technical. I was the cleanup boy for a large shop, and really had to do the grunt work of cleaning things up and fetching tools and pushing cars and taking out the trash. And eventually I got moved into being a lube tech for a short time. But shortly after that, into the parts department is how I kind of progressed into service.
Yeah. And that's actually tends to be a different way to come into the service side, through parts and then into becoming a trainer. But it's probably a huge advantage for you to have had that parts experience when it comes to working in the shop.
Oh, absolutely. And it was a rather abrupt awakening, I should say, to go from being a parts manager for many years into being thrust into service. And what I had to learn is that the buck stops with me, and that I had to become responsible for everything that the customer was needing and experiencing, whether it be parts or service. So I think there's a lot of times there's a disconnect between the two departments, and finger pointing and et cetera. And just couldn't be any of that in the pathway that I took, because I knew both worlds. And so I think that's a good way to look at it, Gene, is that we're all one big team trying to accomplish the same thing for the company, for ourselves, and for the customer.
Yep. So let's get into the topic you just brought up, and that is training. And I was introduced to you actually from your Live in the Drive videos on LinkedIn. How long have you been doing that?
And they've been a little bit sparse lately, but I need to get cranking, doing more, probably 5 years, 5 years. Cause I think that at first it was a novelty thing to have a video going, but every day I'm in there swinging, speaking of training, but the training stopped for me when COVID started, live in the drive at least. And, we were all kind of thrust into a remote world, whether that be our kids or working from home. And the same thing kind of happened with training as well, didn't it?
It did. And speaking of the whole concept of virtual training, you mentioned that I have a lot of experience with that, and that has certainly opened up huge opportunities for me. That said, I have also done a lot of live training, and there are certainly some advantages, and we're really happy to see that things have opened back up. And COVID, it seems like, is here to stay, so we're just going to have to deal with that. But that shouldn't stop us from being live in the drive or doing live training. So let me ask you a little bit about that. With respect to when you are live in the drive, you sort of mentioned the hands-on aspect of it. You mentioned the fact that there's less distractions. What are the advantages to having someone like you actually there at the dealership training the service team?
I think it's the live interaction and the face-to-face contact and a lot of that stuff. But, there's kind of two aspects of live training. And one, obviously, is what I've been describing is just on site in the drive, one-on-one. But also there are advantages of having a classroom live training. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about in large part, Gene, is there an advantage, and what are the advantages of classroom trainings to augment the on-site live training that I've been doing, and how can we expand on those things? So, there's a few points that I come to mind to me that really make classroom training a huge advantage in the overall picture of your training needs and your coaching needs. And I think the number one thing is that allows you to teach students and allow students to be taught in a safe, quiet, clean environment away from the noise and pressures of the whirlwind of daily business.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. In fact, when I've trained in dealership, the challenge has often been the fact that they cannot disconnect from their job. And they're constantly being pulled away, right?
Has this ever happened to you, Gene, where you be in right mid-sentence or 3/4 of the way through an important point that you're trying to make with a service advisor, and they're very attentive up to that point, and it seems like you're just about to make that ultimate connection, and what happens?
The manager walks in.
A number of things. The phone could ring. A technician walks in. Somebody comes up and asks them, a salesperson. One thing about the car business is that a lot of times there's not, pardon me, excuse me, can I ask you a question? Especially if it's another coworker, they just come in and interrupt.
That's right. Yeah. Excuse me, John, I really need Billy right now.
Right. Right. And they may not even say that. They'll just say, hey, what's the stock number on this red, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Or they point to the other person and go,
and take them right out. And so you've made a 15-minute, partial presentation of this person that has just got wiped away. Right. So the advantages of classroom from that aspect are that it gets their undivided attention.
Yeah, there's a huge benefit. You were going to make a couple other points though, in addition.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just talking back and forth about it. The classroom environment provides, I think, to go really in with that, it provides a important human touch that what I was going to ask you about is I think it's missing with so much remote stuff going on. It's almost like you can turn on a video and it's like when you get to the end of a page, you forgot what you read. That the video training or what have you is always playing in the background. And sometimes I'm thinking it's not as effective as it once was because of how much of it is just bombarded on people these days. So the human touch is important. Does that resonate with you, Gene?
Oh, it absolutely does. It becomes kind of like white noise, John, with so much video or Zoom meetings that have been happening in recent years. And at the same time, there are some benefits to the virtual side, but the human touch is the single most important factor that's missing. even if we're not physically embracing because of COVID, the body language, the tone, just the observing their reaction to the things that you're saying. You can capture some of that on video, but you really can't get the depth of their reaction to your training.
100%, 100%. You know, and to kind of tie in with that, the classroom training allows your students to role play, and collaborate. I know everybody gets apprehensive about role play or whatever, but it really does make you better. And the collaboration and environment of your peers is priceless. You know, those are people, speaking of your peers, that share your daily challenges, that may have a different way to address, or particularly a different attitude to take at something that you maybe have not been exposed to. Seeing your peer do it and seeing how your peer would handle that challenge, I think fortifies your resolve, and it will build your confidence and maybe allay some of your fears and apprehension. I know a lot of times in a service drive, it's you're feeling like a new process or something like you haven't really done before. It may feel super awkward, you know, but if you see somebody else doing it and how they handle it, and it's not awkward and they just go ahead and do it, it fortifies you. So that's another valid point there. It kind of rolls right into, this is kind of a cluster point I had here, Gene, is that the group interaction really enhances your learning. The students learn from one another as well as the trainer, you know, and again, it makes it real and less awkward to adapt processes yourself. So I think that's a critical point, Gene.
Well, one of the things that I always tell people is that the fact that I've been a trainer has helped me become so much better at what I do, because I learn from them as a trainer. I learn a lot of new stuff every time I teach a class. But that really opens up really the final point that we want to talk about today. And that is, I've seen a number of your webinars recently where you've kind of informally announced something new on the horizon that really ties into what we're talking about here, and that is live classroom training. Why don't you make that formal announcement right now?
I appreciate that, Gene. And why are we talking about all this, right?
Right.
What's the relevance? But we're announcing the Atlanta Automotive Training Center. Gene, is going to be a bricks and mortar, state-of-the-art, 5,400 square foot, large facility with a ramp that we can bring a car to have a mock service drive and a lot of great stuff. But it was really created by a friend and close associate of mine, Jonathan Dawson, who has tremendous programs in the variable operations. He is the founder of Cellcology, that I'm sure you've heard of. And we're going to have the training center open that will support dealerships with Cellcology leadership, management, sales, marketing, and prospecting curriculum, but also fixed operations training for service advisors, service managers, directors, powered by Fairchild Automotive Solutions. So we'll have a whole curriculum for fixed operations that includes parts and service, and let people have a lot of value-packed content training in the facility. So I'm super excited about it, Gene.
Yeah, that sounds like an exciting thing. I'm excited about it too. We'll have to come down there and visit and do maybe a live remote or something.
Oh gosh,
we'll do live in the Atlanta Training Center.
I love it. I love it. You know, and a couple of the more points about what we're going to do there, Gene, just to give everybody an idea, is it's going to, you know, my aspect is fixed operations, but we're also going to have phone skills. We're going to have video marketing and follow up. We're going to have BDC team training for your business development managers. We're going to have receptionist training. We're going to have HR and compliance, recruiting seminars. So it's going to really be fantastic. We're going to offer individual classes, monthly packages, annual and lifetime passes for dealerships. So we're really going to make this thing a resource that dealers can lean on for their training needs, Gene.
That's exciting. And when do you see yourself opening up?
You know, thank you for mentioning that. We're in the construction phase right now. So we'll probably be selling classes into the November, December months as it looks at this point, but definitely make some announcements when we get things in a much firmer state.
Okay. And if people want more information about the Atlanta Training Center, reach out right there. You have the tickers down at the bottom. John's information, his email, and his phone number are right there. 770-561-4644. John Fairchild, happy birthday tomorrow.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you for having me, Gene.
Good to have you, John.
In today's market, new vehicle sales have declined from the previous average of 17 million units to an estimated 15.5 million in 2021. To make matters worse, you're making even less profit per unit. The long-term trend of margin compression means that you'll be selling fewer vehicles and making less money per sale. That's why your service department will be the primary driver of your gross profit in the future. In fact, in 2019, service contributed over 50% of total dealership gross profit. Warranty is an important and growing part of your service profit. Warranty has increased 38.3% over the last 5 years. That's an average of 7.7% per year, by far the fastest growing segment of your service business. Protecting your warranty and service gross margins is critical. But your warranty processing costs have also risen, and if left unchecked, will continue to do so. That means your fastest growing profit driver is also at risk due to rising costs. Reduce your expenses and defend your gross profit with WarCloud, the technology service that greatly improves your warranty processing. WarCloud technology automates warranty processing so you don't have to do it anymore. With end-to-end warranty claims management that also includes closing the repair order, paying your techs, DMS integration, monitoring for OEM payment, and much more. By using WarCloud, you can also eliminate errors before they cause delays, speed claims, reduce costs, and maximize reimbursements. Dealers using WarCloud are seeing impressive results. They've been able to reduce warranty processing costs by more than 60%, giving a big boost to your gross profit. Plus, they've seen up to 10% increase in claim reimbursements and are able to process claims up to 5 times faster. This gives your service leaders back more time each day to spend with your customers and improve retention. Meet the future of warranty processing and get these kinds of results for your dealership. Request a free, no obligation analysis today to see how much better you can be with WarCloud.
It's always great to hear from John Fairchild, and it's also great to welcome another friend of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, Jim Roche.
Thank you, Gene. Glad to see you and Ted. And let me add my congratulations to the ones you've already had throughout the day on just advancing the roundtable and, you know, having these iconic speakers, Bricklin, Les Silver, Mike Maroney. It's great to have these industry visionaries.
Only to be followed by Jim Roche, who is the founder and executive chairman of WarCloud, the automotive industry's first and only warranty automation platform. Jim's also a best practice winner here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable and a fixture in Fixed Ops. Jim, welcome back to the event.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. And although I don't hold a candle to the other names, it's an honor to be mentioned in the same sentence.
Hey, what a day we've had, right? It's been a, first day of the event, and you mentioned some of the names that have been on, some that will be on as well. Here we are, Jim, at the beginning of fall, and it's a good time to take a look at our industry. So no one better to do that than you.
Well, thank you. Ted, you'd think at the end of a day like today, you'd be exhausted, but I'm energized because of all the great information and just what a fantastic time it is to be involved in automotive.
And in fixed ops in particular, right? It's a good place to be. So
absolutely.
From your perspective, Jim, what's happening right now with dealer service? Where are we at?
Great question. The last figures I saw said that we were the SAR for 2021 was going to be about 13.1 million. which is way off of where we thought we would be even 3 months ago. I talked to many dealers who talk about, they have 1,000 cars on the ground, and now they have 7, which is, is really something. Well, that brings us back to, where we were a couple years ago, which is service is going to be the profit driver of the dealership into the foreseeable future. And that means that dealers have to be looking for ways to improve revenue and, more importantly, I think, optimize profit wherever possible. Every service leader I talk to, Ted, tells me that they're up over last year, which is not, the bar is a little low given that it's, big pandemic year. But people are seeing good profit and good revenue growth year over year, and just generally, most everybody is back to or has exceeded where they were prior to the pandemic. So all of those signs are very, very good, I think.
I think you're exactly correct. Gene and I were just talking before you came on about how there seems to be an all-time high in terms of interest in fixed operations, and maybe that has to do with some of the things that you mentioned, like the lack of inventory that's out there on dealer lots today.
No doubt.
Jim, what's happening specifically relating to warranty?
Warranty is also really interesting. Just to recap some things we've talked about previously, we see overall growth in service is pretty good, not great, but pretty good. But if you look at the trends in customer pay growth, that's a little bit of a concern. Customer pay growth for dealers in the United States has been trending down since 2016. Pre-pandemic customer pay growth in 2019, according to NADA, was only 1.3%. So almost flat. Of course, we went backward in 2020, over 5% decline, but I don't think that is indicative of a trend overall. Contrast that against warranty, which has been growing year over year. Last 5 years pre-pandemic, warranty growth was over 38%, about a 7.7% average growth per year. So warranty is really the growth engine of the area that's the dealership profit driver, service. And I don't see that changing. As a matter of fact, Ted, WarCloud's forecast for the next 5 years is that we'll see warranty growth continue over 30% over the next 5 years. So we've got a little bit of a built-in growth engine there. You look at Hyundai, just announced a battery recall across Kona's, over $1 billion just for that one recall. So what's primarily going to drive this growth in warranty is the new tech that's coming forth as we go down this path to autonomous vehicles. We also forecast that the manufacturers will lengthen warranty coverage based on competitive factors. So those two and a whole bunch of other factors will drive nice growth for at least the next 5 years.
I agree with what you are saying in terms of the automation in new vehicles. I picked up a new vehicle a few weeks ago, same model that I had, just 5 years newer. And I'm so impressed at all the new features. And I tell you, I was actually shocked at some of the things that are available now in vehicles, and just more things that are going to need attention down the road.
Well, I mean, everybody seems to think that, the vehicles going forward are going to be kind of the rolling iPhone, if you will, just chock full of technology and ways to deliver new technology services and new connectivity consumers, which is the good news. The trick is that because it's new technology, it's not completely, free of bugs. And that's one of the things we're going to see driving recalls and more warranty spend over the next little while.
Jim, let's talk a little bit about people. I know dealers are finding it harder and harder to recruit people overall, yet in particular in fixed operations and in service. And I'm not talking about just the technicians. How does that impact your business?
Yeah, so that's really kind of one of the big $1 million questions, Ted. I saw a study recently by Cox that said 72% of dealers said that they were having trouble finding qualified people, which taken alone is really concerning. But the next thing in that study by Cox said that 65% of dealers were looking to increase their headcount. So that sounds like there's a little bit of a problem there. As it relates to warranty processing, it's a particular problem, because if you think about the two things we just discussed, over the next 5 years, warranty revenue is going to increase significantly, while at the same time, the human resources that historically have processed warranty are on the decline. So that is a significant conflict for dealers that they're going to have to sort out. Probably, and I'm not here to do a commercial for my company, but probably by finding technology that can augment or replace the human resources that have historically done the warranty processing.
And you're right; those two areas, in warranty, the technology and the people, all the forces are going to come together at once, and it's probably a good time for dealers to begin preparing for that transition right now, or at least looking at it at least.
They've got to. And one of the things that I'm seeing that's really interesting that's developed over the last 3 or 4 months is when we're talking to dealers about applying technology to warranty processing, their reaction is, oh my gosh, that's great, because I can take this person who has been doing warranty administration and I can repurpose them. They can't find support people in service. They can't find qualified service advisors. So the ability to apply technology to an area that heretofore has had no automation, but they can apply that technology and repurpose that experienced qualified person to other areas of service, usually to try and find ways to improve the customer experience, which, as we all know, is what really drives loyalty.
And that person or persons who do the warranty and filing at the dealership, Jim, typically need to gain significant experience over a long period of time to get really good at it. And in that time, they become aware of all the different facets of all the different working parts in the dealership, from the techs to parts to customer service and so on and so forth.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, a good warranty administrator will have years of experience. They can talk in a very experienced way to customers and help technicians and service advisors about the various things that are happening with the vehicles, particularly on recalls. So assuming that they have the skill set to interact with vehicle owners directly, that's a really good way to repurpose and improve the customer experience and make sure that the service lane is operating as great as possible. Get those CSI scores up.
And we've heard a lot today in different panels, and I know we have some more coming up tomorrow on customer experience in particular. And that's really been a dominant motivator, I can tell, in this conference, in Transformers, if you will, that the customer experience, the expectation of that consumer is at an all-time high and will continue to rise. And, dealers are, beset by different forces that are out there, not just on the service and parts side, but on the sales side, like the Carvanas and so on and so forth, that are raising the expectation of the customer, let's say.
The customer experience is where it begins and ends. Ultimately, the driving strategic imperative for dealers is to improve loyalty. I mean, across the board, we know that increases your service revenue, it increases your profit margins, and according to a study by Cox a couple of years ago, it doubles the likelihood that consumer will buy the next vehicle from you. So loyalty is really the way to go. There was an interesting study a couple of years ago, Ted, by a company called IMR, and they didn't just look at service, they just looked at oil changes, which most people think is like a commodity, right? It's where you get your oil change is driven by price. But what IMR found is that the single biggest reason a consumer would go back to a dealer for an oil change was a great experience the last time they were there. Low price was 5th or 6th on the list. It was about 4 or 5%, whereas a great previous experience was more than 50%. So totally agree with you and the other people who have participated today. You need to find ways to bring that customer experience up. And the way to do that is to make sure that you have great people along with great technology that is providing just a super customer experience.
And Jim, finally, for our audience, one last question, going back to the future of warranty. For our dealers, dealer principals, general managers, fixed ops directors who are watching today, where do you see warranty going in the future, and what should they be aware of at this time?
Well, we know that warranty is going to increase, right? And it's interesting, the intersection here, if you look at other industries that have claims processing as a component of their business, their cost of claims processing is a fraction of where dealers are. Today, the typical dealer spends 6.1% of the value of the warranty repair order is consumed by the processing costs. And the reason is simple. These other industries have automated their claims processing, and we as an industry yet have not. So going forward, you're going to have to find a way to close the gap between the lack of human resources who do warranty processing and the demand. And you're going to have to find ways to improve your profit margins. And typically the way to do that is through some form of automation. So I think that's what you got to keep your eye on. Remember, warranty processing is going to be one of the big growth drivers for the dealer. You have to augment your profit and look to technology to do that. You know, in the past as an industry, what we've done is we throw bodies at problems. The problem with bodies nowadays is that they're expensive and they're unreliable. So you've got to find a ways to leverage technology to improve your profit margins.
Jim, throughout your career, you've been so far ahead of the curve on a number of things, you know, just going back in time and how you've developed things for that customer experience for dealers to make it better for the consumer. And they are now in place as they're considered standards in the industry. So congratulations on what you're doing with WarCloud. And by the way, if our dealer audience wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to find out more about getting involved with automation in their warranty processing claims?
Well, if they want to reach me, that's they can go to warcloud.com. That's 2 R's. I think you have that on the screen. And there's a contact us there. Go and fill that out. And more often than not, I reach out directly. You know, as you and I have talked in the past, Ted, I've never worked in another industry besides automotive and automotive service. I love talking to service leaders and dealers. So I view it as an opportunity every time we get an inquiry. I usually ask, the first question is, how's business? Tell me what's happening. And that helps me when I come to events like yours, you know, I can say, you know, hand on heart, I've talked to a lot of service leaders recently, and here's what they're saying. Here's what we're seeing. I love doing that. And if you'd like to talk warranty, that's probably the best way to get a hold of me.
Jim Roche, a real transformer in our business. He's the founder and executive chairman of WarCloud, here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Thank you, Jim.
Thanks for having me, Ted. Good seeing you.